What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another page from the playbook. My name's Nate, coming at you guys with, this is day number 1 of grading all 32 NFL teams' off seasons, looking at how they did this past season, how that fed in to their free agency moves, coaching changes, and ultimately their draft, and how I think they've done. Honestly, just a basic grade. Here's how I think they did this offseason, building their roster going into next season. You can love it. You can hate it. Let me hear it down in the comments. And I'm going in alphabetical order, which means today we are starting with the Arizona Cardinals. Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Gold Fine & Bowles, lawyers for the injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309-673-5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlaybookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video. Let's talk last year just real quickly. Obviously a rough year. Rough first year for head coach Jonathan Gannon. Hard to find many positives when you go 4-13, whatever their record was, no good. Josh Dobbs, fun story for a little while. The Pastronaut lighting it up for him in losing efforts, but playing fun. And then Kyler Murray coming back and looking okay, not really lighting it up himself. First rounder from last year, Paris Johnson Jr., rough season. Did not grade out well on PFF. Ended up with a 60 overall grade, not great. And allowed 8 sacks on the year and also accumulated 12 penalties. Not really what you want to see. However, there were some positives last year. Trey McBride broke out, one of the 7-8 best tight ends in football this past season. And Michael Wilson, I really do think can be a good complementary wide receiver going forward. And honestly, really can only go up from here. Jonathan Gannon and the coaches have another year of kind of putting together their system and teaching these players what they want them to do. And they had a big win over the Eagles to end the year. Maybe that can springboard them into a little bit more relevancy going forward. Coaching changes, there were none. No coaches fired or hired of note. Coordinators are all the same, and head coach Jonathan Gannon still the guy there. So free agency, obviously, when you're kind of as bad as Arizona was last year, no offense, hard to say any of these losses are really key, But the only player I thought worth mentioning maybe was Hollywood Brown. Ended a very short 2-year tenure with them, in which case they gave up a first-round pick for him. Let's see, he ended up, never scored more than 4 touchdowns in a season, never went over 720 yards in a season. Now imagine they used that first-round pick and traded for A.J. Brown instead. Not a good look, especially when you look at the fact that Baltimore, with that pick, took Tyler Linderbaum, who is a great center. Arizona sure would love to have him right now, but that's hindsight. Hollywood Brown is really the only player that they lost from last year's team. Free agency additions. They brought in a few guys that can be immediate starters, I think, on the defensive side of the ball. Starting Sean Murphy-Bunting, who will be a day 1 corner. Same with Bilal Nichols, defensive tackle, will start day 1 on their defensive line. And then they also brought in Mack Wilson to start at linebacker. So just right there, you've got 3 kind of impact starters on the defensive side of the ball at all 3 levels. Defensive line, linebacker, corner, all positions of need. And you can kind of see Jonathan Gannon start building the defense the way he wants it to look. They also brought in Jonah Williams to play right tackle, 2-year deal. I like that signing. I think Jonah Williams is really solid. I thought he was kind of undervalued, shockingly, this free agency period. He was one of my top right tackles available. So I thought that was a pretty good signing, and they got him for kind of a lower risk deal. So I like that one. So free agency, kind of a net positive, which is good to see. Let's talk draft. Pick number 4, love this pick. Cardinals, I know a lot of smoke about them possibly trading out. Super glad that they did not. Ultimately selected wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. Immediately the alpha receiver in the room. He is immediately the number 1 guy. I mean, when we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. as a prospect, obviously even the impossible to miss prospects sometimes miss, right? It happens. Marvin Harrison Jr. is talked about like A.J. Green, Julio Jones, his father, Marvin Harrison Sr. He has potential to be one of the 3 or 4 best wide receivers in the entire NFL on his rookie contract. He's that good. He's just so good. Generational is the term used with him. They had 2 first-round picks. With their second first-round pick, they took defensive lineman Darius Robinson out of Missouri. I didn't love this pick. He's very versatile, and I know that that's something that Jonathan Gannon loves in his defensive linemen. He can line up over the center, he can line up over the guard, he can line up inside and outside of the tackle. He's got serious positional versatility, so I understand why getting someone like that is not a bad idea. Just gives you a bunch of different options to throw at the QB. Second round pick took Max Melton, cornerback out of Rutgers. He does have number one corner upside. Like, he could be a number one corner. He's going to get to learn from some guys like Sean Murphy-Bunting who have been there, done that. I like his potential. We'll see how he does. Obviously, he played at Rutgers, so not exactly a great school, but we'll see how he does in the NFL. And then in the third round, they took running back Trey Benson. Ton of upside at this pick. Love this pick for them. James Conner eventually is going to not be the guy anymore, right? So I think that Trey Benson's going to really start eating into his carries right away and will be an impact player day one as well. Let's see. I don't love their two next picks, both Illinois boys. As an Illinois fan, obviously that pains me. There's clearly no bias there. I just don't. I said when I talked about worst picks in the draft, I did have Isaiah Adams listed there because I was concerned they were going to play him at tackle. I obviously don't think that's the case anymore. They have him listed as a starting guard. I don't hate that. He could be a serviceable starting guard. I do think he could use some time to learn the position before he's inserted in the starting lineup, but ESPN's depth chart has him listed as the number one guy. So we'll see how he does. And then Tip Ryman, the tight end, really good blocking tight end. Not the greatest pass-catching tight end, but that's Trey McBride's job, right? So Ryman can block and let McBride make all of the splash plays and catch all the passes. Don't hate the picks, just didn't love the picks. Add all of this to they had a ton of picks in this draft. I really like this draft class. Very strong draft class. It is not my favorite draft class, but I give it an A-, mainly because they got the best player in the draft from a talent standpoint, in my opinion, in Marvin Harrison Jr. They got him at number 4, and he just so happens to be a position of need. You know, if one of the QBs slipped to him, it's like, that's not a good analogy. It's not a good comparison, but they needed a wide receiver. It's not like they needed a corner and the number one corner fell into their laps, right? Or they needed a corner and the number one, so on. They got exactly what they need. They got the best player at that position, and I think he's the best overall player in the draft. So I really like the draft class, A- for their draft grade for me. And overall, this offseason, you can see that Gannon is starting to build towards his vision, which should excite Cardinals fans because you want your coach to put his stamp on the team. He inherited a team last year that was not very good and was going to be missing their starting quarterback for a while. He's starting to build it in his vision. I'm excited to see how that goes. I also like the fact that there's no coaching changes. We're not learning any new systems here. It's the same thing. Now we can start to build on this. They've laid the groundwork. Start to build on it. I like that a lot. And then obviously getting Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4 as my number 1 player in the entire class. Amazing value. I do think the Cardinals are still a bit away from even being considered to be competitive. I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get a ton of catches this year and is going to be a stud. But you just look around the team and there's just not a ton of talent all over the field. Their number 2 wide receiver is going to be Michael Wilson, who I think can be a good complementary guy. He's not a number 2. So interested to see how it goes. Overall, this offseason, I'm giving them a B+. I like the pieces they've brought in. I like the moves that they've made. And they didn't lose anything, so I think that they've just built on what they already had, and they brought in some actual talent. So interested to see how they look this year. Hopefully Kyler and Harrison Jr.'s connection is strong because I really want him to be good in the league. He's so fun to watch. His tape is unbelievable. So yeah, final grade for Arizona, B+. Let me know what you guys think about that grade. Too nice, too harsh, or just right about where it should be. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with the second team, the Atlanta Falcons.